Nazis fucked up the plan, and that's about when everything went sour at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass. We're gonna die, 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 die hard. We're gonna die, 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 die hard. We're gonna die, 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 die hard. We're gonna die, 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 die as hard as we can. No one dies harder than John McClane, even when his wife's stuck on a plane, about to crash into the Potomac River on the eve of Christmas. And airport security kicked him out, but John McClane is just too damn proud, and nothing could have made him not deliver, cause that's his business. And with a lot of fights and gunplay, he blew that plane up on the runway. And with a little help from Alan, Holly's plane could land. We're gonna die, 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 die hard. We're gonna die, 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 die hard. We're gonna die, 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 die hard. We're gonna die, 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 die as hard as we can. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. No one dies harder than John McClane, saving all the passengers on the train. When Simon wasn't clear with his intentions, it was just a distraction. And there was no way McClane could know that Hans Gruber was Simon's bro. And that's what made it Die Hard with a vengeance, with Samuel Jackson. And the good cop wouldn't miss this, even though it wasn't Christmas. He didn't get any help from Alan, but only in part 3. We're gonna die, 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 die hard. We're gonna die, 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 die hard. We're gonna die, 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 die.
All right, everybody out there in Chatland, it is your friends Gene Lyons and Diggy Burt here with you again for another live stream. We're going to give everybody a couple minutes to get settled in. Malice, thanks for joining us bright and early in the stream, I guess. We are getting set to go, and we'll start recording. Well, we are recording now, but this will not be part of the official audio of the pod.
Vanessa came in offering caipirinhas. We're gonna have to cut that part. That was
good.
Wasn't that a great thing?
Oh, that's nice.
That show totally changed my mood.
See?
I'm ready for this now.
There you go. I made while we're getting settled in. I made it's called a Voodoo Daiquiri or purple drink. It's over at Lafitte's blacksmith shop where we stopped by. That's like the drink there. I always just get beer at that point in the night because I'm dying. But
if you say purple drink to people, they might think it's something else.
What else could it be?
It's that purple drink. It's the
Oh,
thing you
like
make with,
cough
your
syrup?
coat. Yeah. The drink.
Yeah, no, that's drank. This is a drink. But I made it on Saturday though, and blacked out at like, I think it was probably like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and did not wake up until like 10 p.m. and then I just went right back to sleep, and I was hungover Sunday. So let's see how I won't be drinking as many. I'll be drinking one tonight, just to keep it safe. So
I'll be drinking one.
Yeah,
but it's a large one, and then Vanessa hopefully
big D-sized beverage. All right, so tonight, for those of you who are joining us for the first time or haven't done one of these live streams before, thanks for joining us. We will be recording Suburban Commando. Please feel free to keep the chat going. We may not always respond to what's going on in the chat because we're trying to focus intently on our expert notes for this episode and this fine cinematic experience. Also, you can use your cheers if you'd like to. That's down the little icon that looks like a cheer, like a little cornucopia. You can hit that and use cheers to let us know if there's something that you like or something you want us to draw our attention to. And we appreciate that. It gives us a couple of cents. And then, of course, you can use your points. That's the little bubble. That doesn't cost you anything. You just accrue those as you're watching and interacting. use that to highlight stuff or ask us to do stuff like take another drink out of your giant cup. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. You can do that through your Twitch Prime account using Amazon Prime. And you can also use your you can also pay out of pocket if you, for some reason, don't have Amazon. I don't know anybody who doesn't have Amazon Prime, but if you don't, you can do it that way. And then, of course, beyond all that, though, the thing we appreciate most is your participation. We had a really, really great time last time doing Invictus. This is a slightly different kind of movie. So, yeah. So, anyway, we'll go ahead and get started. Big D, is there anything you wanted to add before we get rolling?
No, I'm ready to go.
All right. So, without further ado, it's time for Suburban Commando.
We are recording.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? If you've ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week we take a look back in time, decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience of... Sorry. It's throwing me off because I just realized that we never did a check to see how loud we are. So Malice, if you're out there in the stream or anybody else out in the stream, you can let us know if we sound about level on audio. That'd be really great. Or if there's any point you can't hear us or anything sounds garbled or bad, let us know. Scott H. In Friends of Texas is there. Says at Busch Stadium watching a ball game, Cards versus the Royals. Have a good show. Malice says we sound great on Malice's end. Awesome. Okay. Back to the show. So I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons. Alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week we take a look back in time to decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with a number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, you can subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all the information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you'd like to hang out with us live, you can follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, where we play video games, host watch parties, edit this podcast live, and do live recordings like this one, Suburban Commando. We're trying to set a pace of doing at least once a month. So if we've been quiet for a while and you haven't been following us on Twitch, definitely start doing that again. Watch for us on YouTube. We'll upload all these episodes to YouTube afterward, and you can catch most of them on your audio stream as well. All that being said, Big D, what movie are you reviewing today?
So, Gene, as you've already said, our live stream recordings are outside the parameters of what we normally do. They could be in the 2000s. They have to be for a special occasion. So this is for one of our great listeners, Tom. So Tom has been with us for a very long time. Tom has been a loyal listener. And I feel like we haven't really shared a lot about Tom. So I decided to do some research about Tom from Midland, Texas. So before we get to the film, Gene, I just wanted to share some facts I've learned. I just found out that Midland, Texas is known as the Tall City because in 1929, the population of 5,500, they built a 12-story skyscraper in the city. It's pivotal to Texas and to the oil industry. It seems like a wonderful place to live. It's a top oil producer in the country. But my favorite fact is that Tom, our great listener, is living in Midland, Texas right now.
And Tom, for those of you who have not hung out with us for that long or heard any of the episodes he's appeared on, Tom calls in on the regular. He's been a longtime listener, and he's been very, very patient with us. In fact, one of the first live streams that we did was to raise money. I think it was Rambo. We did it to raise money in order to do this episode for Tom. We decided to crowdsource it. People were very, very generous. Carlos the mailman kind of spearheaded that effort. And we raised enough money, and then we kind of forgot we were supposed to do this movie. He's actually been waiting a couple years, so we're glad to hear that Tom is still listening. He recently called in and left us another voicemail, thanking us for doing this and making even more suggestions on films that we can do. We always appreciate that, Tom. And now, finally, we've made it around to Suburban Commando.
Yes, and that is our film, Gene. It is the 1991 science fiction action comedy, Suburban Commando.
Now I'm going to go ahead and play Tom's voicemail so you guys can hear it in the chat. We will then also add it to the podcast so that everyone can hear it at home. But here we go. This is Tom calling in about Suburban Commando.
Tom, Crane, Texas, voicemail 1 of 1. I am calling in to say why I chose the Special Commission Suburban Commando. I would like to start out by saying I want to give a great big, really great big, huge shout out to all those who special commissioned during the podcast. And I would also love to give a really, really great big, huge shout out to the guy who special commissioned the whole thing with the funds to do it. First of all, a little backstory why I chose to special commission Suburban Commando. As you may recall, I was born on April 25th, 1980. I grew up in southern Indiana, and I was also raised there and lived there until I went to college later. My parents divorced at an early age, so I was raised by my grandmother, whom we called Mama, and my aunt and uncle. We lived an hour outside of any town in the country. People out that far, as you may know, had to watch TV by antenna because satellite TV had not came along yet, and cable TV did not go out that far. As you may know, people out that far either had to watch TV by rabbit ear antennas or by big metal antennas that went up the whole side of your house with a pointer high above your house with a dial inside the house that's usually set on your TV that you could turn and point the pointer in the direction of the TV station that you wanted to watch. You had to have an antenna for each room in your house. People out that far usually chose.
So this is why Tom numbered his voicemails. That was one.
Okay, so here's the worst part, right?
Yeah.
So I'm listening to a separate audio than you are.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm before you or behind you. So I'm trying to stay as straight-faced in case Tom says something like about Mama.
Yeah.
And on your feed, he's talking about Mama, and I start laughing. That wouldn't be appropriate. So I'm trying to.
All right.
And each time I think it's over, Tom's got more.
Okay, we got to synchronize him this time.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna go. Hold on, let me pull it up. We're gonna make sure this is part 2 now. We're gonna play for everybody part 2, and we're going to we'll do 3, 2, 1, click.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Tom, Crane, Texas, voicemail 2 of 2.
Okay,
As I was saying, you had to have an antenna for each TV in each room of your house. Back to why I chose Suburban Commando. When I was 12 and came home on the last day of school in June of 92, in my bedroom was my very own Zenith floor TV with an antenna outside my bedroom, meaning I could watch any TV station, any show whenever I wanted,
Ooh.
or any movie whenever I wanted that was on TV or on my VCR on top of the TV. On that very first late night on our local Channel 4 was the very first movie, Suburban Commando. I loved every minute of it, and I watched every minute of it, and I have loved the movie Suburban Commando ever since. I always watch Suburban Commando at least once or twice a year, every year since then. I still do every single year. The last time I watched Suburban Commando was October of 2022. And I must say, unfortunately, that movie does not hold up today. I would give Suburban Commando a wipe score of 3.25, and I predict that y'all will give Suburban Commando a wipe score of anywhere from 3 to 4.5.
He's not wrong.
All
right.
I like that Tom is such a pure guy.
Yeah.
What 12-year-old gets his TV and he's watching Hulk Hogan?
I mean, fucking I would.
Oh, he could have been watching some.
Oh, he only had antenna. What's he
you
picking up with the antenna?
You could find you had a J.C. Penney catalog that did the job, right?
Yeah, Mervin's, sir.
Mervin. So
yeah.
he could have found some swimsuit contest or something going on.
No, why would you want to watch that when you can watch Shep? All right, Buzzman614, thanks for joining us. All right, we are now on to part 3 of Tom's voicemail, the grand finale of it. Big D, when you got it queued up, let me know. That worked out pretty well.
I'm ready.
All right, and 3, 2, 1.
Tom, Crane, Texas, voicemail 3 of 3. I also would like to point out that as a kid, I would have given Suburban Commando a wipe score of 1. I am curious to know what each of you would have given Suburban Commando as a kid. Also, can any of you tell me the name of the 2 wrestlers that are after Hulk Hogan in Suburban Commando? I have tried and tried to think of their names over the years, and I cannot think of their names. As always, I hope you all have a great weekend and a great week, and I look forward to hearing you guys for many years to come. P.S. I will love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on Suburban Commando. As always, thank you.
I love it. Tom should work in marketing. What's the rule, Gene? You have to say a product name like 5 times. Suburban Commando, Suburban Commando, Suburban Commando. He's beating it into people's heads. I think people subliminally will go home and watch this film.
And I'll try not to forget what the name is when we're doing the chat score. So Tom got to a couple questions on there that we should address. The first one was what score we would have given it as a kid. I think this is a movie I had to mature into. I don't think I would have liked it as a kid necessarily. As an adult, I can see what they're going for. But I think as a kid, I probably would have been disappointed. As a kid, I'd say I'd probably give it some in the neighborhood of like 4 wipes. Wasn't edgy enough.
No, I think as a kid, I probably would have liked it. Kid of like 12 years old, because he stands up for the local kids. He kind of teaches dad to toughen up. He's fun. He's over the top. He's got some quick-witted lines. He's into some cool gadgets. What kid doesn't like gadgets?
Okay, so then question 2 was the wrestlers Tom is wondering about in the movie. So The Undertaker is in this movie. He's one of the hitmen that's coming after, or the bounty hunters that's coming after Shep. That one's an easy spot. The other guy is Tony Longo, and he wasn't like a WWE wrestler, just kind of a famous guy that always played like kind of big guy. He got the smaller role in the movie, Tom. So if you're trying to figure out which wrestler he is, the reason why you're having difficulty is because he's not. But the other one, The Undertaker, of course.
Yeah, he always played like the dumb jock. Like I think he was in Last Boy Scout. He played the offensive lineman in the hot tub who gets his nose broken and he's bloody he always played the bigger dude.
Yeah, I mean his name's Tony Longo.
Yeah,
it sounds like
should have been a wrestler.
Hey, Shadow Time, thanks for joining us. Okay, so down to the facts on this movie. Suburban Commando is a 1991 sci-fi action comedy directed by Burt Kennedy and written by our friend Frank Capello. The film stars Hulk Hogan, Christopher Lloyd, Shelley Duvall, and Larry Miller. Additionally, a young Elizabeth Moss, who you might know for Mad Men, briefly appears in her film debut. The film was originally titled Urban Commando and was intended for Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. When those two opted to make twins, the script was bought by New Line Cinema as a follow-up to another popular Hulk Hogan film, No Holds Barred. So in the movie, you've got an extraterrestrial warrior, Hulk Hogan, who crash lands on planet Earth and then finds himself stranded there until his spaceship recharges itself. And, of course, hijinks ensue. He unintentionally gets his new landlords involved in conflicts with his foes. So, Big D, we've heard Tom's recollection about this film, about tuning in the antenna. The first thing he watched on his TV set out there in Indiana was Suburban Commando. How about you? What are your memories of this movie?
So I grew up a fan of wrestling, big time. My father was a fan of wrestling when he was young. He liked guys like Bruno Sammartino, like the guys who it was more realistic wrestling. I got into it, and I remember he was wonderful. He used to take me to the Westchester County Center in White Plains, New York. And the WWF at this point was not as big as it is today, as big as it was even in the late 80s. And they had something called like the WWF House Show. And I went back and got down a rabbit hole looking at it. They played shows almost every single night in multiple cities, giving unknowns a try, giving the stars a try. So he took me to that. And the one that I could go, and I searched through all of the different matches. I know for sure I went to 1984. It was October, and it was the big match was Sergeant Slaughter against the Iron Sheik. I remember that. Nikolai Volkov was there. He won his match. Snuka came in, did not wrestle. I saw multiple. It was like a 5,000 seat arena. So I loved the wrestling. Hogan, who's the star of this movie, I was not a Hogan fan. I don't know why. I always went for like Snuka or Sergeant Slaughter. Andre the Giant I liked. But by 91, I'd outgrown it. I wasn't a wrestling fan. So this came out, and then it was compounded by, it was like aimed at kids. It seemed like it was going to be, hey, a fun family adventure. Hey, see what the wacky family is going to get up to now when a commando comes to town to babysit the kids. I didn't even know this was a space commando. That would have helped. I might have seen it if I knew that.
You know, and think about it now that you mention it. Like, there are kids in this movie, but he barely interacts with them. Like, he picks them up, and they got, like, one or two. I think the boy in the movie, like, the little boy, I think he's, like, one line. Today, if you made this movie, it would be like all about him interacting with the kids and how cute and funny that is. That's not the case there. Yeah, Big D, I'm with you on that too. My wrestlers that I was into, I mean, I wasn't huge into wrestling at this point. Like, this is like the early 90s. Not a huge Hulk Hogan fan. I did like the Iron Sheik, naturally, right?
Of course you did.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan, I thought was amazing. Macho Man Randy Savage and Sergeant Slaughter. Sergeant Slaughter was so cool because he had the G.I. Joe crossover too, which made him like super, super cool. But I missed out on No Holds Barred. I missed out on Suburban Commando. I don't think I had seen a Hulk Hogan movie other than Rocky III ever. So, and then after that, I took a long break from wrestling. I think once I hit about maybe like 12 years old, I was out of wrestling for about 30 years. Oh, here's Vanessa with the beverages. Caipirinha. Let's go.
Oh, fantastic.
Wow. She put it in like the nice glass for you and everything.
It's fancy. You know, she knows that she's got to be presentable for the listeners.
So yeah, but I was off wrestling for about 30 years, and then recently, a few years back, my friend Tyler reintroduced me to the Royal Rumble. I went over to his house for a Royal Rumble party, and I was like, "This is the coolest thing." It is my favorite sporting event. Maybe World Cup is up against it, but I like it better than the Super Bowl. I like it better than the World Series. And now I annually host a Royal Rumble party at the house and like have everybody over. Everybody, draws numbers. We have like drinks going and food going, and it's just it's a huge, huge party. I mark I mark it on the calendar as soon as I get a new calendar for the next year. Royal Rumble, February, boom, done. Sorry. Buzzman is in the chat saying Iron Sheik, the original Haktua. Amerika, ach, tough.
Oh, him and Nikolai Volkov used to fire up the crowd.
Yeah.
They used to. Oh, people like actually hated them. I don't know if this point I thought it was real.
Yeah.
But there was still that debate: is it real? Is it fake? It didn't matter because these guys were bigger than life. I feel like today everybody's got to have a shtick. You have to find like what is your personality going to be. Back then it was just organic. Hey, he's big. He's the giant. Hey, he's Iranian. He's a sheik. It was so natural, and it was just so much fun.
Well, we'll get into that when I talk about the gobbledygooker, because I don't know if they were also organic in the 90s. Let's hit the trailer. Interstellar warrior Shep Ramsey, played by Hulk Hogan, is on a mission to capture intergalactic despot General Suter, played by William Ball. The general has kidnapped planetary ruler President Hashina. Shep boards Suter's flagship, but is unable to rescue Hashina, who is killed by Suter. Wounded by Hashina in the process, Suter transforms into a berserk reptilian creature, and Shep barely escapes, but he is able to blow up the ship as he does.
Man, so I'm coming into this again. I thought this was going to be like a military commando who's coming from Earth, who's going to, maybe he's on a mission, he's covert, he's a neighbor. I don't know what it is. But it opens up, and I'm not prepared for this. It's a Star Wars knockoff. The Death Star is flying into the overhead. We get X-Wings. There's a Darth Vader knockoff who's got no helmet. There's references. The ship says, hey, there's another bug hunt, aliens with acid blood, an alien joke. So I don't know what to expect. I'm worried that it's going to be a complete shit show. But what helps this movie out is Suburban Commando, unlike most 80s and 90s films, it is very self-aware. It doesn't take itself serious. It knows what it is. It's a low-budget film. It doesn't try the special effects to be too good. It can't be silly jokes. It leans into them. And you just got to look at Ramsey. Look at the design of his outfit. They didn't try to make him look like a slick space alien or like Buck Rogers or something. It looks like he's wearing like these giant rocket boots and a Nintendo Power Glove. He's wearing two of those. He's flying through the ducts inept. He's putting bombs. He blows the ship up, gets sent to Earth. He crashes in a building that's a roller rink called the landing pad. At this point, I know this film is not going to take itself too serious.
I also love that he doesn't rescue the president.
No.
The president is being attacked, still very much alive, and he's like, I'm out of here, blows up the ship and gets out of there. Mm-hmm. Also, take note, if you're watching this movie like Malice plans to, take note that when Shep does get to Earth and people are checking him out, they're not intimidated. They're not impressed. They're like laughing at him. Like people in the street are making fun of his outfit. That's how bad it is. Again, the movie is just super self-aware.
Yeah, and then he runs out there. He's not even trying to hide. You think like he's an alien. He knows he hates Earthlings. He hates them. You think he's going to lay low? No, he's dispensing justice, space justice. King B locks his dog in his car, and he comes over and throws King B into the truck. He's fighting vending machines. How did he know so much about Earth?
Well, I think he's been there before. That's why he doesn't like them at all. I think like he makes stops to fight intergalactic crime or whatever in Earth and is aware of it. He just doesn't want to hang out there for 2 weeks or whatever it is. And I never really thought about it before, but as I'm watching this movie, because there's a lot of like overlaps, whether it's paying homage to or parodying Star Wars, but you get a lot of like the kind of stormtrooperish armor. You got the blasters in the hallway sort of thing. And I started to think about how strange it is that movies that come out after another movie has already delivered like a great look and feel, how they still manage to look worse than their predecessors. It's like there's no pride taken in the making of a film. I was thinking about Star Wars: A New Hope, right? 1977. Suburban Commando came out in 1991. 14 years of difference. You think of the difference between a movie that came out in 2024 and 2010, like it's night and day, right? They had 14 years to make the technology and the effects cheaper and look better. Both of these movies, just think about this, New Hope and Suburban, both made for $11 million. Even adjusting for inflation and knowing that they were trying to go for a kitschy thing, how did they make it look like they had to want to make it look this bad?
Yeah, it has to be intentional. It has to be. And I was glad for it because I normally ask myself those stupid questions. Why? Why does Shep hate the Earthlings? Why does he land and not sleep in his spaceship in the roller rink? How does he have cash or documents that he can go and get an apartment? But immediately, Gene, I know the movie is intentional. It's telling me, don't ask these questions. They're not important. Just sit back and just don't ask. They're telling me.
I didn't even think about that part, Big D. For people who haven't seen the movie, he lands, then he gets his shit together. He leaves his ship in the roller rink. He doesn't go like camp out in the woods. He doesn't go into the sewers or like even in the roller rink or something like that. Remember, this is a commando, right? You would assume that he's been in inhospitable environments before and can survive on his own. He should be the Bear Grylls of the galaxy, right? What does he do? Not only does he get an apartment, he rents the apartment in the back of someone's house, like an occupied place, not some studio in Hollywood or something like that, or like on Skid Row. He's in someone's backyard. And and the movie is just full of surprises like this, like interesting decisions that didn't need to happen, but they add to the fun factor. Every single one of these surprises, and I just started taking note. Surprise, surprise, surprise. They made me scream or they made me laugh. President Hashina is being held captive by General Suter. He pulls out he's pulling out like a document, like it's a surrender treaty or something like that. No, he chucks it. It fucking cuts the dude's arm off. And I'm like, whoa, we just cut that dude's arm off. But we're not done there. No, then this like slimy reptile hand, like Total Recall, comes out of the armhole. And it's great. We get, when we're introduced to like all the neighbors, there's this guy, does not need to exist, has nothing to do with the movie really, the Colonel, okay? He's a drunk guy, like with his bourbon right there. He's a drunk guy sitting in like an old Jeep that's been converted into like a flower bed, chugging whiskey. You got these grease monkeys that are next door. You think they're going to be like the tough guys? They're going to try to fight Hulk Hogan? Because Hulk Hogan, you would think that's what he does. He fights guys, right? No. They're like, no, we're going to sue you. Like, this is the 90s. Why would we fight you? We're going to sue you. Mm-hmm. You've got, and then you've got guys in fights turning into like rebar bending contests. Hulk Hogan doing handstands on skateboards. But my absolute favorite, Big D, was there's a scene where Shep is going up against the bounty hunters. They hit him with this freeze gun. And there's like a cloud of smoke. There's this fog. And you're like, oh no, like he's probably going to fight his way out of it or be frozen. And then we're going to have like Christopher Lloyd's going to step up and save the day. No. The fog clears. Hulk Hogan, he's drinking antifreeze. Antifreeze. That's the solution to a freeze gun. It's so smart.
But that's not even the best part. The camera pans to all the people in the bank have been frozen, right? And keep in mind, $11 million. The special effects that we have is like the Christmas snow that you spray on your windows during the holidays to make it look like it's snowed up. The camera does quick cuts to people, and they're not sitting still. They're like half moving because the camera's there, and it's the movie leans into it. You don't expect it. It's a kid's movie at this point. I'm thinking, there's a lot of dark humor and a lot of shit talking. So the computer in his spaceship talks mad shit to him. He's like, it's going to take 21 days. You are stuck here. Ha, ha, ha. The computer's laughing at him. He later on, there's a car alarm system that says, hey, back away from the car, which was a thing at this time that people had that. To me, you're just inviting someone to smash up your car. He comes up, beats it up. The machine is like, hey, it's okay. It's okay. Let me go. Let me go. It felt a lot to me like Space Pirates. The tone seemed very much like that, but that movie took itself a little bit more serious than this film did. But it's wild. It's a lot of what you would not expect. And on top of just the jokes, we fall in a lot of times to the Westworld effect. When a movie comes on, I always try to sit, and it's not intentional. I'm like, okay, what are the breadcrumbs in Act One? What are we going to be able to call back to this point? What will happen to the characters? How are they going to grow? How are they going to change? And it starts right off. I'm like, all right, here's the first one. 40-pound perfect crystals in the boss's office. That's going to power the ship. Later on, he says, well, I need crystals. Okay, it works. Perfect. So now I'm thinking, I got it. I got this movie down. I know what's going to happen. That was the only one I got right for the entire film. This is not predictable. You don't know where it's going to go. Jenny, okay. Oh, shit. Hold on. Sorry, 1 second. My thing just moved. This is the last time I picked it. Jenny is so in touch with her emotions. She's watching, Dr. Ruth. Her husband comes home. He's had a bad day. She's super in touch. She's like, hey, I know you had a bad day. Come here. Let's relax. She's going to obviously teach Shep, who's too high strung. He needs a vacation. He's losing a step. This is what's going to happen. Jenny is going to change him, and he's going to have a breakthrough. No, that doesn't happen. So I'm like, all right, later on, we get Doc Brown, or Charlie, as I like to call him in this movie. He's into technology. He's got a shop. This is going to pay off. Shep is maybe going to get hurt. He's going to find the ship. He's going to fix it, or he's going to take alien tech. He's going to do something at work that gets him the big promotion. None of this happens. He doesn't even do the most obvious, which is get Charlie to become a man and stand up to the neighbors. That doesn't happen. I am off on every single beat, and the movie's intentionally setting these up for me to get wrong.
It was so good at this that I had to find, I had to unconvince myself of things, right? Okay, at no point in this movie do they say that Charlie is an engineer or a scientist. He is an architect. Mm-hmm. He is an architect. He pulls out the blueprints at work at his architecture firm, and I'm like, what device did he invent there? Dude, he's not an engineer. Yeah. He's not he is an architect, right? And then again, like you said, Big D, he's gonna fix the ship. No, he's not, because he doesn't know how any of this shit works, because he's an architect. They were so close to what you would expect, and then they just take a little bit of a left, and I loved it.
Yes, and you sorry. And you glossed over. You buried the lead of the neighbors. We see the neighbors. They've got funny cars, race cars, all out in the street. And Charlie's been like, hey, can you move your car? They're laughing at him. You know that they physically intimidate him. So when we get Shep shows up, Shep says, hey, I know what you're going to do. You're going to drag me on the ground. You're going to beat my ass. You're going to rough me up. You're going to hurt me. And they just go, no, dude, this is the 90s. We're going to sue you. We're going to sue. I picture like a theater full of kids who are just not getting the joke. The parents are laughing. I don't think there's ever been a time where it just subverts your expectation more than you have Hulk. He's there. He's going to beat these guys up. But no, now he's afraid that he's going to get sued for moving the funny car.
Well, due to his failure to save the president, Shep's superior officer suggests that he is stressed out and should take a vacation. Annoyed, Shep accidentally smashes his control systems and is forced to crash land on Earth. Will have to stay until his spaceship has repaired itself. Shep has little knowledge of Earth's customs, and his temper and sense of justice cause problems with everyone he meets, especially a mime he tries to help in various comical fashions.
Yes, he's got a problem with mimes. So, man, I told you, I'm like beyond WWE and wrestling at this point. But Hogan was a great performer. He was a natural. He was the hero for years. Then he had a heel turn. So he's got an idea of how to act, how to elicit a response. And I'm watching this, and I'm having the conversation in my head that we've had before with Schwarzenegger and Stallone. Their careers, the pictures they chose, how diverse their films were. And I'm thinking, how is this guy not a bigger star? Hulk Hogan is charismatic.
Yeah.
He surprises me. He should have been a big star. The camera loves him. When it's on him, as ridiculous as he is with that hair and the tight jeans he's wearing, and he looks ridiculous. His comedic timing is perfect. There's a point, like a line halfway through the movie, And Charlie and them are stuck. The bounty hunters are after them. And Charlie says, how are you going to get us out of here, Shep? And Shep says, I'm going to do a vertical blast. And Charlie doesn't believe it. So Charlie goes, really? Is that going to work? Hogan turns to the camera and goes, shut up. And that's it. He's so natural. It's funny. His delivery, he can do the action and the comedy. And I think he screwed himself. Where you have Arnold. Arnold didn't start off with Junior or with Kindergarten Cop. Arnold started off being the giant man, the man mountain with a sword, who was punching horses, who was out there terminating. He was out there. So when he made the change, it was a diversion where people are like, okay, I can kind of accept it. It's hard to go the other way. You can't go comedy and then be taken serious. Think of the movies he started. He was in Rocky 3, right? You see him for a little bit. He's kind of serious. He's a tough guy. Then he did a series of comedies. Oh, he also did one in between there. Sorry, he did No Holds Barred, which I don't know if that's like a wrestling or a fighting movie. It's something like over the top, right? He has not established himself as a badass. He has not done it. So what does he do? He does a string of Suburban Commando followed up by Mr. Nanny. Then he does Thunder in Paradise 1, 2, and 3, Spy Hard, Secret Agent Club. At this point, you're done. You can't roll it back. You can't go out there, and you can't become a bigger star like some of these other guys have from wrestling.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. Like, I've read blogs that say his movie career wasn't great because of his movie choices, and I think it's crazy talk because I thought he was great in Rocky 3. He was great in this. He was great in this. But I think you hit it. I think you cracked that code, Big D. It's not the movies he chose necessarily. It's the order in which he chose them, right? You buy yourself the right to do shit like Jingle All the Way. You buy yourself the right to do shit like a Kindergarten Cop, right? Like you can't start out that way. And it's not to say that movies like Conan weren't funny, because they were funny, but they were funny for adults. There wasn't like family humor.
But it's also funny when you have Arnold, who's like just punching horses again and beheading people, to watch him babysitting or him pregnant or him having a twin. It's funny. You can't do it the other way. And I compare him to the other WWE or the wrestling stars. The Rock, he's had a bit of a downturn lately where he's not very likable. But you got like John Cena. Hogan's at least as charismatic as he is. Or Dave Bautista. Or a lot of these guys are really good. Even Mr. T had done some. Jesse Ventura. Why could he have not had a career like Jesse Ventura, who up until the end was a badass who could do movies? I think he lost out. I'm kind of surprised.
Speaking of the type of comedy that appears in this movie, I alluded to it earlier when I was telling people kind of what happened in this movie. There's a lot of mime jokes. Like, I can't think of a movie that has more than one mime joke. This movie has 3. And in a movie about a galactic warrior crash landing on Earth, I was surprised to see any mime jokes. It just doesn't seem to fit. I felt like there was a guy who was like, hey, I'm a mime. Can I get in this movie? And so Shep encounters this mime. He's out doing like his nightly justice jog. Like, I don't know what the fuck. He does this thing where he puts on like jeans and like boots.
No, sweats. Sweats.
No,
heavy duty, thick sweats. He's wearing sweats at night.
But boots. He's got like
boots,
work
and
boots and sweats.
Yes.
He goes, I'm guessing, for a jog. Because he's like going to check on a ship, right? But he like has to do his justice jog as well. So he's going around. He's fighting crime for some reason. He's got to, he's still got to be the Suburban Commando. And he sees a mime, and even though this guy can pilot a spaceship and navigate the galaxy, he assumes mime is in a force field. And his solution is, I'm going to punch through the force field and save the mime. And of course, what happens? He punches the mime, knocks the mime on his ass. But they're not done there. Okay.
No.
They had more mime jokes, and it led me to take like a step back and look at the big picture here. Okay. Shep has stumbled into this town, and like there's a lot going on in this town. You've got the town mime who just goes out every night and mimes. You've got funny cars out on the street. There's purse thieves. There's rapists. There's speeding surfers. Like there's badass, like, Camaro or whatever the fuck with the surf boards on the top. There's also bikers hanging out. There's mall girls. There's like one angry Indian shopkeeper with a broom. It seems like a movie lot, like a studio lot, more than an actual city.
So now again, I'm going back on what I said before, where I'm gonna start asking questions. I First of all, late night I don't think would be optimal mime time. If I'm a
It's
mime,
quiet.
yes, they're not in. Maybe he's honing his craft. They're I think he makes a comment later like he should go to juggling or some other. So maybe he's soft opening his new like mime tour. Yes, he gets hit the first time, then he gets launched to the second like deck. This poor mime, but this town, Gene, let's think. The movie is called Suburban Commando. Wouldn't you expect them to be in the suburbs? They're not in the suburbs. They're in some dark, like RoboCop part of town. You mentioned the rape, the open rape. The girl, he saves her from being raped. There's a burn barrel, which we know, papers flying around the streets, and burn barrels, Gene, is a sign of the fall of civilization.
It's Judgment Night.
He saves her.
Yeah.
Does she say, "Oh, thank you. Let's go to the police. Let's get them"? She goes, "How can I save you?" No. She says, "How can I help you? What can I do for you? I'll do anything to you. What can I do for you?" Was she offering Shep sex to thank him?
You understood that this woman was a prostitute, right?
No. Why do you
Yeah.
assume that? You're so judgmental.
No, she was a sex worker.
Why? Why? Because she was out and she deserved it? Is that what you're saying? Because of the way she was dressed?
No, why else would she just be out with these dudes in this like creepy industrial part of town? You think she was just walking through town at that part of town that night?
Maybe she was going to a club.
I think that she was like an escort, and these guys were like, "Oh, we're gonna get it for free."
You
And
think
then
these dudes were paying an escort?
No, they
You
weren't
think these
paying
dudes-
her. That's the thing. It's like it was like
Oh.
they ambushed her.
Oh, you've got this whole story going on.
All right, everybody, go watch Suburban Commando, and then write in or calling. Go to chatpod.com and use the SpeakPipe feature, or write in at host@chatpod.com. Let us know, sex worker or not sex worker. But yeah, she was offering sex as payment because that is the currency of a sex worker. And that's also why his codpiece, like Christopher Lloyd's codpiece, like lit up like laser tag, and then the freeze gun like flew off.
Did I miss that?
Look down at his crotch.
Oh,
He goes, and it's like green blinky LEDs all over his dick.
Oh, that was fantastic. I got to go back and look at this. So maybe
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah. Okay. It makes sense now.
There's no maybe. I am right.
You are.
And
correct.
the
I
audience will
apologize.
vindicate me.
I
Well,
apologize.
Well, Charlie Wilcox, played by Christopher Lloyd, is a weak-willed architect, not scientist, working for the fawning and hypocritical Adrian Belts, played by Larry Miller. His wife, Jenny, played by the gorgeous Shelley Duvall, unsuccessfully encourages him to stand up for himself and unsuccessfully tells Charlie to ask Belts for a raise. That drink is kicking in. In order to help out financially, she rents out Charlie's hobby shed, which I thought was a workshop, as a vacation cabin, which Shep leases. Shep's appearance and behavior make Charlie nervous, and he begins to spy on his guest. Charlie soon discovers Shep's advanced equipment and begins experimenting with it, not knowing that the power sources are traceable. So we talked about this movie being intentionally cheap looking, and I can appreciate that. I think I'm on the record on Chat the Movies several times saying how much I love a shitty looking movie. That's fine. But Big D, I got to tell you, I got irrationally mad, speaking of video games in the chat, irrationally mad about Suburban Commando trying to pass off Afterburner as an arcade game with spaceships that Shep would like somehow understand how to navigate. Okay. I think we've all played Afterburner. Anybody who had a Sega or went to an arcade at any point in their life as a kid in the 80s and 90s, we've played Afterburner, right? F-14 Tomcat, middle of the screen, you shoot stuff, right? We've all played this. The cabinet above the screen, it says Afterburner. Yet they're trying to pass it off as some like space video game. It is so lazy.
I think it's the first time they made Shep look stupid. And
I think the mime was the first time they made Shep look stupid.
But again, Shep's trying to help.
Okay.
This, he thinks it's actual combat. Shep is from a race. He's from a civilization that has mastered space travel, right? They are far advanced. He would know what a video game is. The fact that he thinks this is real, that he thinks, oh, these are the whatever the hell the name he came up with. I immediately knew what it was. And Gene, at the end, the little white flag comes out of the video game. It was the first time I thought it was stupid. But I think I'll get into it later. I think the movie tries to be cute sometimes. And I think this is trying to be cute, like Marty playing Duck Hunt in Back to the Future 2. I think the correct response would have been for Shep to be like, "Well, I remember things like this back in the day," and about how like this is so just outdated technology. They made him look stupid, and I don't think that Shep would have thought this was a real battle he was fighting.
Yeah, the way you play this, right, is that we've never seen Shep as a kid as being playful. And so the kid's just like not doing great. He's struggling at Afterburner, and Shep's like, step aside, and all the kids gather around. Holy shit, this huge guy's really fucking good at video games.
Yeah, he teaches them the tactics.
Yeah.
He teaches them how to be a commando. And he gets all these kids to rally behind him, and they become masters. And maybe later on even, because we go back to jokes multiple times, he comes back to the arcade, and all these kids are just kicking the shit out of every video game.
And then he gets them, like in the last Starfighter, they go out and become pilots, and they form a squad, like a Flying Ducks, and then they fight against the general.
Yeah. That was part 2.
Yeah, it's part 2. Never happened. Let me tell you, you joke about that, but when they have the farewell scene in this movie, I was like, oh yeah, we're setting up a part 2. And I'm really sad it never happened. Big D, we should talk about Christopher Lloyd for a second. I love Christopher Lloyd. I think everything I've seen him in, I really enjoyed. We've seen him as Doc Brown. We've seen him as Uncle Fester. We've seen him as Martin the Martian. I don't know if anybody saw that movie, but My Favorite Martian. And now we see him as Charlie Wilcox in Suburban Commando. And I found it strange that in each of the roles he plays, Christopher Lloyd ends up with a love interest, but never quite a stable wife. It's either somebody posing as a wife, or like a prospective wife, but things go haywire, or like an alluded to wife that he'll marry someday, but they're not actually together. And it was so weird. Every time I saw him together with Shelley Duvall, like having those two play suburban couple just didn't sit right with me. And I'm not going to lay into Shelley Duvall because you took care of that during The Shining.
I don't think I did that. Did I really?
Go back and listen. But my God, like what an awkward dynamic between the two of them. Like there was no chemistry whatsoever.
But I think it makes sense. I think because they're both awkward human beings, it works.
But why would you cast them in a movie as a couple?
Because they're the ones who would really be together. They're the ones who would match. Physically, they are a perfect match. They're quirky. They're eccentric. Jenny is an amazing partner. I'm not even going to talk about the way she looks. Her as a person, she is awesome. Charlie has no backbone. He can't stand up to his boss. And she is there to champion him. She comes home from work, in case you haven't known. He's had a bad day. She comes home and she is dressed. Curly hair, a push-up bra. She is dressed to go. She's looking sexy, right? He says, I'm not in the mood. She immediately takes off her wig. She says, oh, I'm sorry. I know you had a bad day. You sounded sad on the phone. I wanted to be here so I could give you some compassion. She's amazing. When she knows they're having trouble with money, and that's the main reason he hasn't quit his job, what does she do? She goes on her own, redecorates the workshop. She goes out and finds someone to move into the apartment. She's giving him the support to be free. She's a great partner.
Oh, hold on. Let's really talk about this, okay? Let's say Vanessa didn't have a job, okay? Stay-at-home mom, all right? You're out there commuting to work, coming home, dealing with suburban commandos out there, okay? And you've got this one thing you like. It's your organization room, okay? Because that's if people who don't know, Big D really, really loves organizing cables, putting things in bins, as you can see right behind him there. He really, really loves that, okay? So let's say that was your, I don't have to make this hypothetical. Your Shat studio, okay, that you're sitting in right now. And you come home, and Vanessa has turned that room into a room for a renter. Is that, do you feel that's supportive? Oh,
yes,
wait, and let me take it back. And also probably spent I don't know, $5,000 furnishing, painting, putting appliances in.
I think you're dead wrong. I think she watches TV. She's probably watching like Trading Spaces or some like This Old House.
Okay.
She has the tools. She's done it herself. I don't believe she spent any money, but her intention is to get them financially stable so then he could get his own, maybe a giant garage. And she knows that his mental happiness is more important than his tools.
Why doesn't she just get a job?
We don't know if she has a job. That was part of
She
the film.
doesn't have a job. She's watching daytime TV. She doesn't have a job. She's watching Dr. Ruth or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, it was a different time, right? It
Okay.
was a different time back then. I thought they could have made her a therapist or something.
I did feel bad for her when she's you know, like you said, so she puts on the wig and all, and she's trying to make Charlie's day better. Like I felt terrible for her, right? Because this is like such a thoughtful thing to do, and frankly, like we should all be so lucky that you get home and your wife is like in lingerie and like, hey fella, you know, like that's real nice. But I also felt really bad for Christopher Lloyd because like, dude, he had a day, right? And like you get home and I started thinking about it. I'm like, man, it is really unfortunate that having sex makes me happy, but having sex doesn't make me happy if I'm sad. It makes me happy if I'm like neutral. Can you fuck your way out of sad?
No, I don't think so. No, and I think that's her point. Is when he shoots her down, she doesn't get upset. She says, "Hey, I get it."
Yeah.
She knows. It was like a pity. She was doing it out of pity for him.
She was not doing it out of pity.
She was like, "Hey, you need this. Maybe it'll help clear your head. Maybe it'll help whatever." She wasn't like horny and turned on. She was doing it for him. It was a kind act.
But isn't that weird? Like I've never
Yes,
stopped to
it's
think about how
very-
weird
yes.
that is.
It is a very, very weird dynamic. Yes, and it does happen. Yes.
Yeah. So if
So
I'm feeling good, then having sex will make me feel great. But I'm feeling bad.
It'll actually make you feel worse.
It makes me feel worse.
Because it's like it's a gift. It's like you're so pathetic. I'm gonna try to boost your esteem by coming in sexy. Like yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even worse is like you try to go along with it, but then you're not into it. Like you're not getting hard. Like then it's a whole thing. Now you feel like a failure.
Terrible.
Wow.
And then you got Shep walking around the backyard doing bench press.
Yeah.
Oh, this could have gone a very different way. Because the daughter is looking at Shep.
Yeah.
She's like, ooh la la. You're from France? Ooh la la.
La la.
That was a look that she gave Shep. I'd be concerned if I was Charlie.
Well, Shep's whereabouts are tracked by Suitor's men, who send a pair of intergalactic bounty hunters after Shep and Tom, that is The Undertaker and Tony Longo. Shep also requires several rare crystals that Big D spotted earlier in the movie to fix his ship, the closest samples of which can be found in Belts' office. Charlie helps Shep get into his boss's office during a company party before the bounty hunters corner them. After winning a fight, Shep and Charlie head home to repair the ship. Suitor, who has escaped the destruction of his ship, arrives on Earth. He takes Charlie's family hostage, forcing Charlie to lead him to Shep. Shep decides to use a lose-to-win tactic, which he learned from the Colonel, by setting his ship to self-destruct and surrendering to Suitor in exchange for releasing the Wilcox family. Suitor then begins torturing Shep, enjoying himself before he intends to kill the warrior. So, Tom, to your question, the wrestlers in this movie, or wrestler in this movie, I did not know prior to watching this that The Undertaker was in this movie. But when I saw those bounty hunters chasing Shep, I thought, man, that guy looks really familiar. But he looks smaller in this movie than he does in WWE, right? I realized the character Knuckles, that's Mark Calloway, a.k.a. The Undertaker. And at this point, he had just recently signed a contract with the WWE to play this new character that is called The Undertaker. This is like the brainchild of the WWE. He had debuted in the 1990 Survivor Series, which also happened to be the debut of another famous WWE character. And if you guys don't know about the gobbledygooker, please check it out. They debuted at the same time, and their careers took very different trajectories.
You can't just do that. What was the gobbledygooker? What was his specialty?
The gobbledygooker leading up to Survivor Series, you know how like with a preview something for like a whole damn season until you finally get to see it in like a pay-per-view event or something like that in the WWE?
Okay.
They kept cutting to this giant egg.
No.
Yeah. And everyone's like, what's the egg all about? I don't know. And then the egg hatched. And it was a wrestler who was a turkey.
Well, I mean, it's not unprecedented. They had like Coco Beware.
Yeah, no, but this
He
is
was
like
a bird.
he wasn't doing like a
Like
bird
oh!
dance. He was
No.
dressed up as a turkey. Like no, you can't see his face. He's a turkey.
Oh no.
Yeah, and people were furious about the gobbledygooker. The gobbledygooker got booed.
Yeah.
It did not go anywhere. Undertaker, on the other hand, went through like several eras. One of the coolest wrestlers that ever existed. One of my favorite things about WWE is that sit-up that he does, like out of the casket. Boom.
Yep.
Paul Bearer, what a fucking wonderful sidekick. Big fan of the Undertaker, who happened to be Big D. 6'10".
Yeah, it's a big man.
Yeah. So Hulk Hogan is also like, I think he's like your height. I think he's like 6'6", 6'7", something like that. You just don't realize watching on TV how big these guys are.
No, and that makes it even more impressive when you could say whether or not it's real or not, that you're throwing a 6'10", 340-pound guy around and that they don't just rupture every tendon. But any wrestling fans out there, go back and listen. Roger and I reviewed Vision Quest, which was the wrestling movie, and we had on as a guest one of our good friends, QT Marshall, who is a professional wrestler, has done some work with the WWE. He now does, I forget which federation it is, but he wrestles. And I remember hearing from him how they develop characters. And it's interesting to see what takes off, what doesn't, all the different things that they try. But there's some weird parts in here where you think that he's going to be this giant mountain of a man, but yet he's okay having like a little baby voice, which wasn't expected. Or when you get Shep tells him, hey, have a nice flight, Campbell Breath. Like, I don't know where that came from. It gets a bit dark and strange. They threatened to, like, they said, if 10 seconds, if you wait 10 more seconds, I'm going to show you the inside of that kid's head. It gets a bit dark and it's weird. And I do respect, Gene, this movie for what it is. It's wacky. It's fast paced. I enjoy the energy. I do. I appreciate what they were doing. It's 90 minutes. But they try to pack, I think, one or two many jokes into such a short run for action. It gets a little bit too crazy, too manic. And it reminded me of another Christopher Lloyd movie, which I'm surprised you didn't mention, when he was the judge in Roger Rabbit. Judge Doom. I think his name was Judge Doom. It's a little too manic, cartoony. It's nonstop. It's bit after bit after bit. You can't catch your breath. You mentioned the mime. 1, 2, 3 times in the mime. The car race, 1, 2, 3 times in the car race. The kid with the cat up a tree, twice. Kids with the skateboard, twice. Old lady with the melons. The whole thing in the bank with the antifreeze.
The actual melons, people.
The actual melons,
Yeah.
actual can. He just gets melon all over this old woman, right? Then you get the two with like the bad guys that we're talking about right now. I thought it was the bad guys from Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. The strange, big, alien-looking guys in the dark outfits.
Yeah.
And it goes to the next level. We get the fight at the office. They're doing some, it looks like a year-end party / presentation for the Japanese clients. And it turns into Looney Tunes, full-blown, shooting through the floor, the elevator up and down, guys getting shot through the concrete. It turns into a Looney Tunes episode with Bugs and Daffy, and it's just a giant blur.
Yeah, the recent string of movies that we've done, Big D, has got me a little worried that something is wrong with me. And I think it started innocently with Monster Squad, right? When Wolfman's got nards, right? When Wolfman gets blown up into like a pillow out the window, like I laughed real fucking hard, right? But now it's getting to the point where like anytime in a movie where I'm seeing kids getting hurt or dummies flying through the air, I'm cackling. I think it's the funniest thing in the world. the cat getting launched in the air, the kid getting launched in the sky, Elizabeth Moss getting launched in the sky. I laughed. And I found that all sounds innocent enough. I found myself wondering if I'm actually sadistic because I felt let down. We see this paper boy in the movie and he throws a newspaper, hits Hulk Hogan in the head and says bullseye. And then Hulk Hogan, after seeming like he's going to show some restraint, he chucks that paper back at the kid. And then we see the kid in a bush. I wanted to see the child on the bicycle hit in the head with a newspaper and fall off of the bicycle.
So I'm the other way.
Okay.
He throws it and you hear, oh, and he crashes. I thought that was the joke. But then they pan to the kid bent over in the bushes hurt. And I was like, why did they do that? Now I know why they did it. They did it for the Gene Lyons out there. That's who they did it for. They did it for you. That joke was for you.
You're telling me you wouldn't laugh if you saw a kid riding a bicycle get hit in the head with a newspaper and fall off?
But they didn't show us that. They showed us what happened afterwards. Show me the kid hitting, going like Paperboy all over the handlebars into the bushes. Yes, they didn't do that.
I feel like dummy flying through the air is like the Wilhelm scream, the visual version of a Wilhelm scream. I want one in every movie. Maybe not Invictus, but like, you know what I mean? Like every comedy should have a dummy flying through the air at some point.
Yes. I mean, our Revenge of the Ninja, we had one. I think there's plenty of them here. People getting thrown around. Cats.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, finding his courage.
Invictus a bit. I don't know where you'd fit it in there.
Yeah.
Maybe the New Zealand, or the Springboks. Like they do some secret play to counteract the haka haka. And they just fire one of these guys into the air.
I should point out, too, that I did a poll in the stream chat. For those of you listening on the audio version did not see it, but it was whether people can bang whilst sad. I asked people if they could, and overwhelmingly, unanimously, people said no. So if you're out there, your partner's sad, you're trying to bang, and they don't want to, don't feel bad. It's not you. It's them. They're having a bad time. Okay. So let's wrap this thing up. Finding his courage, Charlie returns to help Shep and injures Suitor, who then turns into his monstrous form. Physically outmatched, Shep stuns Suitor with some electrical wires, and he and Charlie manage to escape the ship's explosion, which destroys Suitor for good? Or does it? Shep leaves Earth using the bounty hunter ship. He takes Belts' secretary Margie with him, hoping for a quiet family life in space. Charlie, in turn, has become bolder from his experiences. He appears in Belts' office the following morning and finally quits his thankless job. Charlie solves his final problem by using one of Shep's weapons to destroy an annoying set of traffic lights that never changed at the right time and receives cheers from other motorists.
So first off, I want to say the end here. I want to give him some kudos. The spaceship, it looks like some bug. Looks pretty good. I like the fact that Shep's ship is destroyed, so he goes and uses the bounty hunter's ship.
Makes sense.
The alien, that looked way too good for this film. That looked like it had to have been some other film got left over. It looked good, Gene.
It looked like what I imagined the Jean-Claude Van Damme kickboxing Predator would have looked like.
Yes, and that was better than the rest of this movie. You have look at what Hogan's wearing. He's wearing styrofoam shaped with like jewels and little LED lights. It looked pretty good, but I don't know because they make references to all these other films. They were kind of shooting multiple shots to try to tie into popular culture.
Sure.
And I don't know if I'm reading into this. So I want your help in this. Christopher Lloyd, you're talking about him before there. You were talking about the different roles. He always seems to play a similar role, a scientist, somebody's a little awkward. There's a lot of references in here that I feel were like Back to the Future. You had to tie back Christopher Lloyd to his most famous role. You got the video game scene I'm talking to you earlier about, like part 2 with the duck hunt. You get the street race. That's Marty racing in, I think it's part 3. You get the Ford Fiesta, the Mustang, and the Mercedes, the old people. You have skateboard scenes. You got Marty with the skateboard. And it ultimately ends in the thing that put me over the edge is that Shep now has never skateboarded. We see him fall down. He can't stand on it. He doesn't even know what it is. But yet here, all of a sudden, he pulls out some space board, future board. It is the pit bull from like Back to the Future Part 2. It is a clear tie. And every time I hear him yelling, Jenny, Jenny, it's Marty, Marty. Or when he says, you son of a bitch. That's him hanging from the clock tower, like just screaming. It can't be accidental.
It also makes you really realize how much they aged him for the role of Doc Brown, because here he's got the darker hair. He looks younger than Doc Brown did, and I didn't notice that Back to the Future flavor when watching the movie. But now that you mention it, yeah, all the pieces are there. It's unmistakable. Like they were leaning into that. I was too busy noticing Kindergarten Cop. Like there's just a vibe there, and again, it makes sense. They wrote this movie for Arnold Schwarzenegger. But the way that he's kind of the big, serious character that's navigating a world of, non-serious characters, an idyllic sort of world, and trying to make them aware of this threat that is, insidious threat that's there, that felt very real to me. But there's literally a scene where Shep like comes out of the house. There's all this noise going on, kids in the street and everything, and he's like, "Quiet."
He did. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, right. So we're watching different movies here. All the kids shut up. It's again unexpected thing. It's hilarious because one cricket, middle of the day, one cricket,
Right.
and he looks at, and then the cricket shuts up too, right? But it was like a near mirror of how John Kimball delivered that. I'm like, are they just fucking around in here? Because Kindergarten Cop came out, what, a couple years later? Or was it before this?
Oh, I think
it was later. It was like years
later,
later, right?
after this. Yeah.
Let's see. It was Kindergarten Cop was...
It
was a year before this.
Oh.
It was a year before. Maybe Hulk Hogan.
Oh.
He's at the theater watching Kindergarten Cop.
He's like, I'm going to do that.
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that in this movie.
I got to put that in. I'm going to get it on my notepad. I'm going to put that
Although
in
it
there.
is weird that Kindergarten Cop feels much newer than this movie. We should take that into consideration in our wipe scores.
I think you would have needed maybe one of the kids to say, boys have penises and girls have vaginas. Then we would know for sure.
Now, instead, we got 3 mime jokes. This is what we get instead. And Big D, before we get to the chat score, and this has been lovely fun. Thank you guys so much for participating. I want to take a moment to salute Larry Miller. And if you're not familiar with Larry Miller, I'm sure you've seen him either on film or on TV. Mm-hmm. This is for the audience, Big D. Obviously, I know who he is. He's the guy that plays Charlie's boss in this movie. And he's been described as improving every movie or TV show that he's in. And I think that's absolutely true. This guy, especially in Suburban Commando, he gets it. Like, he gets what his role is. He gets what this movie is. He understands the tone. He understands the film's charm. He understands the specific way he needs to serve up this character in these lines. And he plays this incredible character where he's an asshole, but he's not menacing. Like, you kind of like him, but he's corporate awful, right? And he really earns his screen time. And there's this random scene where he's really close up to Charlie, and he goes, "I almost kissed you, but I wouldn't." And I was howling.
No, I see. You say that he's not exactly the worst or not. I think he's punchable. He is one of the worst characters. He always plays the asshole father, the asshole boss. There's never going to be a film where he'd be like a romantic lead. There'd never be one where he's
or Christopher Lloyd for that matter.
There would never be a role where he'd be like a man of action.
Right.
In 10 Things I Hate About You, is he the dad?
Yes.
Yes, he's punchable.
Yeah.
He's hateable. He's punchable. So in this movie, he is giving, there's a Japanese client, if you haven't watched this in a while. His firm seems to only have one client who is doing some building which Charlie is designing for. They speak English, so they understand what he's saying. So he's always like, hey, everybody. He's like Benihana. And he's saying things that sound like Mitsubishi that sound Japanese. He offers the group, he's like, hey, who wants to get some kamikazes just for tonight at the party? He is meant to just be punchable. We can all agree on one thing, Gene. You wanted kids over bicycle handles flying into the bushes. I wanted less of it. We all wanted this dude to get his comeuppance. This dude, he is the what the hell is the guy's name from oh my God.
Joe Isuzu.
No. The guy from oh Jesus, I'm gonna come up with it. My
Oh, the
goodness.
guy from True Lies?
Yeah, he Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
Like he plays that asshole. Yes, he's that asshole.
See, I didn't want him to get his comeuppance. I thought with his little, like his cummerbund and his little bow tie and all that, I thought like this is the guy, Big D, where when he leaves our company and goes to he gets a promotion or somewhere, he goes, or like he leaves and goes into real estate, where we go, fuck, do you remember Adrian? That fucking guy. He got away with so fucking much.
Yes.
What a piece of shit.
The actor I was thinking is Paul Giamatti. He is
what?
Yes, Paul Giamatti is punchable. And now that I like him in The Holdovers, he's kind of had some good roles lately. But yes, I think he's very punchable. I think Aliens.
John Adams? You want to punch John Adams?
No, just the actor.
Okay.
Yes.
He's an American patriot, okay?
Oh my goodness.
Jesus.
No.
Anyway, what was he in? That made you want to punch
in The
him?
Holdover. He was in he was Pig Breath.
Yeah,
in,
I'm sorry, but what did Paul Giamatti do that made you want to punch him?
It's just he's just always just that. It's his character, the one where he goes to wine country, that whole
Sideways.
thing. Yeah, Sideways.
Yeah.
He's just. But again, it's why he makes every movie better. You need that punchable character.
All right. Well, now is the time in the podcast where we give you our Shat score for Suburban Commando. The Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get off your respective butts. So Tom in Midland, Texas, said that he predicted somewhere between 3 and 4.5 wipes. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. So that is Being a Burly Boy. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a movie. It's when you've fallen and you can't get up. I'll go first. I've got this movie pegged just below average, which doesn't mean that it's a bad movie. What I mean by that is that it's not doing anything crazy new. It's not really like a movie that it's a must watch. It's not even a movie that I think is particularly inventive, but it's also not terrible. And it had all the makings of a terrible movie. Like, by all accounts, this should be a bad movie. You got a pro wrestler. You've got a derivative sci-fi theme to it. You've got and then beyond all that, you've got it doesn't really know if it wants to be a family movie because you're not interacting with the children, but it's not really an adult movie. It's kind of in between. It's doing all kinds of weird things, and yet somehow, and I credit this to the filmmakers, I credit it to Hulk Hogan's charisma, as you said. They make it work. Did Shelley Duvall need to be in this movie? Not necessarily. Did Christopher Lloyd need to be in this movie? Not necessarily. Would it be better if it was Schwarzenegger and DeVito? Almost certainly. But still, I think that I'm proud of Hulk Hogan for what he achieved in this movie. I think you're right, Big D. He is charismatic. He is great to watch. He's so earnest in the way that he's treating this role and these kids and the other people he's interacting with. Jokes are a little bit repetitive. I'm going to go just below average on this movie at 2 3/4 wipes.
I think I'm going to do a little bit better. It's 2.5 wipes. I think it's slight. No, you know, I'm going to go, man, I'm going to go 2.25 wipes. It's better than it deserves. The jokes work. It's low budget. The actors, I think they had to make budget choices on the characters. Christopher Lloyd, I think, was a budget. My dream for this role would be Rick Moranis. Rick Moranis is the dad. He's kind of the awkward scientist. It's like the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Shelley Duvall. What was Shelley Duvall doing at this time? She wasn't doing much. I don't think she did much after Popeye, unless there's something else she was doing. So I think you found the cast you could, and you did, but the jokes, the writing, the production was better. I think it was fun. It was self-aware. Unfortunately, this came at a time in Hogan's career where it couldn't springboard him into something else. But it was fun. I mean, an hour and a half. It was fun. It was unexpected. Yeah, I got to go 2.25 wipes.
All right, so that is 2. I'm using the actual calculator
Thank you,
here to
thank
make sure I get it right
Thank you.
because I've had some errors very recently. Okay, so
Mhm.
2.75 plus 2.25 equals 5 divided by 2 equals 2.5. So we got squarely a 2.5 wipe movie. That is a perfectly average wipe score for Suburban Commando.
Okay, so Gene, with a wipe score of 2.5 wipes, that now ties us in the 216 spot. Okay. It is slightly better than the Full Monty, Weekend at Bernie's, and Adventures in Babysitting, slightly worse than Vacation, Army of Darkness, Hard Bodies, and Matilda.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of other relatable films, like kids' films. Like, let's see Kindergarten Cop, for example, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that Kindergarten Cop did better.
Yes, almost certainly. But
Yeah,
I
so
don't know. We're a funky bunch.
No, Kindergarten Cop was worse. But again, that was Roger who screwed that with a 4.
Yeah, he has no sense of humor.
Yes.
I was
So
just throwing that out there. He has.
I
He
know-
has. Listen, I don't get along with Roger. I don't think I really don't enjoy working with him. He has a terrific sense of humor.
No, but I think maybe that was his idea of humor. He likes to be contrarian just to be contrarian. He's the one who thinks Heat sucks. So I could picture him being like, "This
Well,
wasn't
he didn't
funny,
understand
Arnold,"
Heat. That's different.
because he was doing housework. He was folding his clothes. He wasn't watching it.
Yeah.
He wasn't paying attention to their overnight surveillance and what had happened with the police. But yeah, he was
Or
probably
what bonds were.
yes, T-bills. Yeah, he was a little confused about that. But I mean, I think it's a perfectly suitable. If I was put it this way, if I was stuck in Texas, right, and I had Mama gave me a TV and rabbit ears, and I'm alone, everyone's asleep, it's either going to be some fashion show where I could get some alone time, or I'm going to watch this.
You know what? When I have the Royal Rumble party, we go through the preliminary fights. Royal Rumble changes up the order every single time. But let's say you go through the preliminary fights, we go through the women's Royal Rumble, we go through the men's Royal Rumble. People still want to party. What do you put on? You put this on. You put this on. People are going to have a great time. Or guests are arriving early. We haven't gotten to the fights yet, right? Fights. I call them fights. You haven't gotten to the sports entertainment yet?
The
right?
matches, yeah.
In the past, I put on previous Royal Rumbles. No. You know what you do? You put on Suburban Commando. It's got its place in the world.
I don't think you can go wrong.
The audience score was also squarely split between a 2 and a 3. So that it seems like everyone, it's unanimous that we're sitting in at 2.5 wipes. And Tom, I think that's better than you expected. So, maybe you picked a gem out there and didn't really know it.
I think he did. I had never seen this, would never have seen it, and now I'm glad that I saw it. So, Tom, thank you. Mission accomplished. You've gotten at least half dozen eyes on this film.
All right. Well, Big D, what movie do we have coming up next week?
Well, Gene, what movie do we have coming up next week? When will
Let's
this
see. So we've released. This is weird, guys, because we're kind of in this weird flux here. So we've got Revenge of the Ninja has been released.
Yes. So then there's
At
also,
this point, this is on. We're at July 10th right now.
So we've also recorded Wildcats.
Yeah.
At the end of Ninja, it was Wildcats is promoted.
Okay, so then it'll be Wildcats. Then we'll release this. So our next movie. Oh, this will be
Okay.
great. We'll go
I know
straight
what it
from
is.
Suburban Commando.
I know what it is. Gene, next week, this is much like Suburban Commando. It's gonna show you the dark side of LA. Next week, Clay comes home to Los Angeles after a semester at college and encounters some disturbing developments. His former lover, burgeoning model Blair, has begun to abuse cocaine, and her addiction pales in comparison to the drug dependency of her new boyfriend, Julian, who was also Clay's childhood buddy. Clay tries to help get him sober in 24 hours, but the process is complicated by Rip, a callous drug dealer Julian is indebted to. This came out in '87, Scott H's film. And man, this is a very, very different film showing drug dependency, prostitution at the fire barrel. This is very different than Suburban Commando.
Well, Scott, we hope you're out there having a great time at the Reds Royals game, and we're very excited to be doing the upcoming film, which I will not mention. This Spiritus got me turned, guys.
Couldn't you have had Hogan playing Billy in that next film? Hogan should have been in that. Hogan should.
That would have been.
in our
It would have
next
been
film.
scary as shit. It would have been a very different movie.
I immediately would be turning tricks. I immediately
Yeah.
would go to Palm Springs. I would
Show me the nearest dick
Yes.
that I mayest suck it.
Yes,
Bill.
yes, Mr. Hogan. Yes, I will
Yes.
do it.
All right.
I'll get you your 50 grand, Mr. Hogan.
Well, thank you, Scott, for commissioning the upcoming movie. Thank you to Tom in Midland, Texas, for selecting this movie and being so patient with us. Thank you to Carlos the mailman and everybody else who contributed to make this podcast possible. Thank you to everybody in the chat who joined us as well. We had a great time. Shadow Time, Malice, Whiskey Jacks. I think there was some other people in there. Buzzman, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And again, remember to subscribe to us on Twitch. And also, if you don't subscribe, at least follow us on Twitch so you can get updates as to when we're going live. We're also on Instagram and Facebook, and we'll post there if we're going live as well. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. Email us, host@shatthemovies.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all that information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Not House of the Dragon, because I'm 2 fucking weeks behind on that. You can also find all that information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, where every fun podcast can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next week for the following movie.
Can't believe I made it all the way through here without a bathroom break.
Did you finish your drink, though? Good night, Shadow Time.
It's pretty close. Shadow time.
So I've been making these. Everybody in the chat, just so you're aware. So I've been making these purple drinks, the Voodoo Daiquiri, and the 2 shots. So it's 2 shots of bourbon, and then 1 shot of spiritus. Have you had spiritus before?
No, it sounds like again like a Harry Potter
It's a
spell.
Polish Polish liquor, and it is. I think it might be the strongest. Like it's 192 proof.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so it hits you. They say it's not for drinking. Like you should use it
It's for sipping.
Like you should use it to make other things, bitters or perfumes or whatever. But I find you put it in with a little bit of grape juice and you're having a good time. So anyway, it hits weird and differently, if that makes sense.
Well, I need to go. I need a bathroom break right now.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Well, we're all done. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Join us next time on the stream. And this pod will be released on YouTube. So if you want to rewatch it, you can. And then also on the pod stream as well. So thank you guys so much. We're going to wrap it up here and have a good night. Happy Wednesday.
Night, everybody.